Amen. All right, so this is what we call the Afterburn. So if you have a comment or question, you're very welcome to go ahead and raise your hand. I've got Mr. Paul here is going to go around with the mic. And we got Kurt and Rob on the live stream desk. All right, so the mic's coming around. All right, Caleb.
Yeah, this has been a big praise for me with even the book, The Garden of Peace for Men. I read that book, and it's really changed. It changed my life. It's changed my marriage a lot. And you recommended this book for us to read, and it really has been a 180 for my marriage. And taking the advice and the wisdom from leadership, the financial peace stuff, and realizing how that ties into the providing and protecting, or the providing part, it's helped me now. I've been unemployed for almost a month now, but I'm diligently trying to find a job right now. But all the steps that I took to give myself an opportunity to get into something that I want to do, that's going to be beneficial to me. My wife has been completely supportive this entire time. She's kept her peace this entire time that I've actually been unemployed. And it's because I did those things of providing for her and building our relationship into a point to where she feels protected and provided for.
Amen. Amen. So
I appreciate that.
Amen. So she's learned to trust you. And because of the financial training that we've provided here, you had enough of a couple of months of emergency funds so that you're not, creating an insecure situation as far as your finances. And so I know we've talked about this already. So I know I'm familiar with what you've done, and I was very proud of you. You did all the things necessary. And then when the situation came up where you needed it, you have it. And so that's another way to also provide for your spouse to know that you've done these things, which is fantastic. Some of you are going to be wondering, what is this book he's talking about? Okay, so there's a book for the men and a book for the women written by a gentleman named Rabbi Shalom Arush, A-R-U-S-H. And he's of the Breslev Orthodox, okay? The book is going to come across for some of you very strange. There's a lot of quotes from Talmud and Kabbalah and stuff like that in there, although the quotes very easily could have been from Scripture. They're just more comfortable quoting from where they like to quote from. But I want to make a point, because, these books are not for everybody, and so I'm not wholesale endorsing them necessarily. But I want you to know the main point that fits into what I said today. That book that he read told him to only work on him. Okay? That book, because I've read the book, that book says that if you're a woman, don't open it. You're not allowed to see what's in it. The ladies have a book that says the same thing, and that book is called Women's Wisdom, and it says the men are not to read it. You know why? So that neither one could use it as a weapon against the other. So you guys read 1 Peter, you guys read Ephesians 5, and you start using these verses as weapons. So, to Caleb's credit, he read the book, and he says his marriage improved. And I want you to know, because of what he did, what the book told him to do, not because of anything that the book was just about him. Okay, you need to hear that. Okay? It says if you work just one side of it, things will get better. The ladies' book says the same thing. If you work just one side of it, your marriage will get better. Now, if you're both doing it, it should really work. Okay? But just understand that it's just basic instructional understanding of the roles in the relationships. Okay? All right. Where's the mic? Okay, over here.
Thank you, Rabbi, for the good teaching today. When we're talking about, when we were recapping Ephesians 5, and you were talking about all the things that husbands should do, it brought back to my mind the fruit of self-control that we were talking about in Galatians 5:22, because that's one of the things that I need to work on some more. It also occurred to me while you were talking today about Abraham and how Sarah called him master, that when I read this story about when Abraham left his father and his brother in Haran, that he didn't take anything with him except for his wife and his nephew. And I know later on when he goes to rescue his nephew after the battle between I think it was 5 kings, he took 319 armed men that were born in his own household. So he built quite an empire for himself and provided the life for his family, a similar kind that I think all of us men would like to provide for our families.
Amen. Yes, all of us men should have 319 armed men ready to go. I probably have that in this building right now. No, I'm kidding. All right. Warning to anybody that thinks they're going to come here and mess with us. All right. So anyway, not going to be a smart idea. Okay, Shira.
Thank you, Rabbi. This is for a woman in her golden years sitting here listening to all this. I just felt like it maybe is time to share a bit of a testimony. It's an excellent, excellent message. And I'd like to point out the tremendous flood of poison that we are up against coming from the media. And I was a victim of this, having been born in 1950, and the era of television had just started, and Disney came along and all of this. I had so much need in my life because of early traumas. And I turned, as I grew up and became a teenager, I turned to fantasy. I turned to what Hollywood was telling me. You know, this is how romance happens, and this is what happens. And I found, even when I knew better in my middle age, after many, many broken relationships, 3 broken engagements, and 2 failed marriages, the holes in my heart, that black hole, that neediness, somebody to love me, somebody to turn around the rejection and abandonment and the trauma. And through coming here and placing myself under you, Rabbi Steve, and having the Torah begin to pour in and push out all that poison that was in me that kept me addicted and hooked to things that made it impossible. No matter who might care about me, I might be married to, they were always being compared with something coming in from the media. And my parents didn't know enough to regulate that. So I would just encourage, if you're a parent, see if you can regulate that, because it's the truth coming in. You know, how much of the truth are we allowing to flood in and push out the poisons that we've been growing up with, so that it will give us so much more of a chance to be truly husbands and wives, as Scripture describes it. And as for the parents of children, isn't this possibly a way that they could be protected? I see good fruit coming. You know, we've got an academy here, we've got feasts here, we've got kids fellowshipping and people being taught. The Torah in Deuteronomy 28 promises to reverse the curse of madness. And that's really where I felt I had been. And today I am just so excited and happy that love of Yahweh is flooding my heart. If there's a husband or a wife who's just really heartbroken because they don't feel like they're getting what they need to get, what are your inputs? Let that Torah come in. Let that love of Yeshua come in. Let Rabbi's teachings come in and push some of that stuff out that's making so much dissatisfaction. And from a place of satisfaction in Him, your chances of following all this good advice are going to be 1,000% better.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Amen. All right, Janet.
How can I follow that? You always teach us that we need to work on ourselves, right? So one of the things that I need to work on is to increase my white. So I went to somebody who is very white last Shabbat, and this person gave me a little bit of advice, which I think was really brilliant. And he went with what you just taught us today. You know, one of the things that you said was, and the verse just stuck to me, knowing that whatever good you do to anyone, you know, he shall receive the same from the master. And I was thinking that lot of times, if I really position myself into that vertical awareness that you teaches us, it really changes everything. It's not just about, let's say, my relationship with my husband and whether I want to do it or I don't want to do it because I'm in the flesh. But if I'm doing it as if I'm doing it for him, to serve him, then I'm motivated to do it, right?
Amen.
So that's really, really cool. And one of the things that this person told me was, I'm not really trying to please this person. This person was working with customers who were kind of angry, and he was saying, I'm representing my company, so I'm not really perceiving it as if it's against me personally. And I was thinking, well, I can do that. I'm actually representing him, and I'm trying to please him. So it's really not about this, it's more about him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was one piece. And the other piece of question I had actually for you, Rabbi, I work with a lot of marriages. And of course, if you follow Torah and what you say, this is meant to work, right? We get into a very productive cycle. If we wives submit and obey and respect and admire our husbands, in return they're going to provide, protect, love us, right? And but what happens when you have marriages who don't have that understanding from Torah, and they're trying to do it their way, following a lot of the patterns from the world? How can you even help couples like that?
Look, if I was counseling people not in Torah, I could do the exact same thing without quoting a verse. I can help them understand the basic makeup of men and women, and I do that as part of the teaching today. I told you one of the basic things that's as part of the woman's makeup is needing to feel safe and secure and provided for. And I can explain that without quoting a verse to somebody if I had a job as a counselor and I was taking, whoever, decided to contact me to hire me, and I was counseling, I would be able to do the same thing for the men and say, men, this is the dynamic. Now, I think there's a scriptural component to it, but if they're not interested in that, I simply can say, look, this is from just the reality of women and men. And you also have to go to the reality of wife and husband not being the same as just man and woman, okay? And help them see that there's a difference. There's a difference between me just being a man and hanging out with men and me being a husband hanging out with my wife, or me being a father hanging out with my children. There's a different expectation. It's just a different focus, a different awareness of the needs that are going to be presenting themselves that I might need to provide and things I might need to do. There's appropriate behavior that's more appropriate between a husband and wife or between a parent and child than it is maybe just hanging out with your friends. There's all kinds of things that come into that. So these things you don't need the Bible to prove. And mostly people, when you say these things, they know that it's true. I mean, it's not something that I don't think anybody's ever argued with me about. I mean, they know when I'm describing these things. Almost every time I talk about it, the women always say the same thing, absolutely, that most of the time when we have a problem is because I'm not feeling safe, I'm not feeling provided for. I feel like, that's when the insecurity comes up. But there's almost always a reason. It's not just irrational insecurity, okay? Now, if it happens a lot, habitually over time, it can turn into irrational. In other words, anything that could trigger it that looks almost like it could be a problem could trigger the insecurity. But it started off because there was security issues at some point, all right? And so you can dig into and say, okay, either right now there are security issues or there were in the past, and that's what the problem is, all right? We talk about the idea, women, if you're single out there, you want to find a man that you can admire, look up to, be proud of. Men, if you're single, you need to become that. If you want a wife to look at you that way, they're not going to look at you that way just because you think you're Mr. Wonderful. You need to be walking out an admirable life, going in a direction and heading in a place they want to follow. Otherwise, they're going to redirect you all the time. But you should find somebody who wants to go where you're going. Of course, if you're a typical man today, you don't know where you're going. So then you expect a woman to follow you wherever. No. All right? You got to know where you're going. You got to know who you are and where you're going. And if you're not who you're supposed to be, then you have to have a plan to fix that. When my wife first met me and we were talking and I told you she had a little list, and I said I wasn't all those things on that list, but I also said that it was a good list. And it was pretty much similar to the same list I had that I was working on it myself. And so I knew that I wasn't all the things I wanted to be, still not. But I know what I'm working on. I know where I'm trying to head. I know where I'm going. But also I'm honest enough to know who I am now and recognize the good parts of that and the not so good parts of that. Okay? So keep that all in mind as you're going through all these things. All right, Steve.
All right, I had some comments I wanted to share, see if I'm on track with what you said. The best way to receive obedience is maybe by being an example rather than demanding it.
Okay, I can go with that.
Okay, and then trust and obey. In order to have the trust and obedience that we're seeking, maybe we could set aside what's important to us and our cause and then seek out what's important and the cause to the ones we're seeking trust and obedience from.
All right, say that one more time. I almost didn't want to hear it one more time just because it was all right. Well, go ahead. We'll take one more shot.
In order to have the trust and obedience we're looking for, we need to lay aside our concern and seek out to take care of the concerns of the ones we're looking to have trust or obedience come from.
All right, so you know what? I'm going to change my first answer to the first one as not necessarily the first comment. Let me re-clarify this. All right? You're not going to get obedience just because you're demonstrating it, although to a sense you could if you're demonstrating it to the authorities above you and people watch and see what that looks like. But you could be obedient to one above you and still be an awful person in the middle to the person below you. You have to be respectable. You have to earn respect and trust. The obedience comes out of respect and trust. That's what I said through the 1 hour and 10 minutes that we talked. Okay, all of this comes out of respect and trust. If they respect and trust you, the obedience will come. All right? So you have to work on the trustworthiness and the doing things that they can respect, which means that you're doing your role the best you can. Now, the obedience example is also a part of that. If they don't see you being obedient, like if you're doing all these things and taking care of them, but you're breaking Sabbath and you're not eating right, you bring the wrong things in the house and all this other stuff, they see you're not obedient to the Father, they're going to see these kind of things. Happens with children all the time, okay? If one spouse is disrespecting the other spouse in front of the children all the time, next thing you know, the children are disrespecting them also, and you wonder why the children talk to you like that. Well, how are you talking to your spouse? Because they're watching you, all right? So if mom is disrespectful to dad and the children see that over and over again, then the children may be disrespectful to dad or mom when watching that kind of behavior. Same thing if it goes the other way around. So things as far as being imitated. But the main thing I think you were trying to get at was what's the right way to go about inspiring obedience in other people? And the answer is be that person that they trust and respect enough to obey. Okay?
Okay. And then in self-control, for me, it seemed like in most cases, in self-control comes waiting. And in waiting can sometimes be the greatest time for our growth in M&R, because that will help us strengthen in areas that we can't see we're weak in while we're waiting.
Okay, I can go with that one.
All right. And then the last thing was, I understand the struggle with authority because I think most of us, even including me, want to have a say in how it's delegated or how it's handed out. So that's why I see it.
Okay, that was part of the thing that I wanted to talk about at the beginning when I was talking about realigning this, re-clarifying the husband-wife thing. Okay, this is important. Ladies and gentlemen. All right. The input, all right, sharing input, having a say. It is vital, I'll talk to the husbands first, that the women get a say. Getting a say means you have an opinion, okay? Then ladies, it is vital that you understand that he can say that he's not going to do what you want. And if he decides not to do what you want or do it your way, that doesn't mean you didn't have a say, all right? Men, the most valued voice in your life, in the flesh, like down here in the below, should be your spouse. Your wife should be your most valued advice, comment, input, whatever you want to call it. But ladies, you have to understand that just if he doesn't do it your way, that doesn't mean you didn't have a value to what you said. It doesn't mean he didn't value it. It doesn't mean he didn't, what's the point if he's not going to? Well, he is listening. At least he should be. But just because he didn't do what you say doesn't mean that he didn't value your opinion. I value everything my wife says. I don't do everything she says. Okay? Now, sometimes we've had that struggle in our own marriage where she's like, well, then why do I, then obviously I don't have it. I said, no, I want to hear it. Problem is, ladies, you have a problem with allowing the man to decide what to do with what they heard. Listen to that carefully. Men struggle listening to you if you're going to push to not only share information, but insist that they do something with it you want them to do. At that point, they're going to get worn out and not want to hear it anyway. Share your information, allow them to choose what to do with it. You can suggest what you'd like them to do. I mean, here, this is a situation, and I think that maybe we should do this with it. And the man can say, that's great, let me think about it, I'll make a decision. Or he might right away know what he wants to do and say yes or no. But you have to allow him the space to decide what's going to be done with the information. But guys, make sure you communicate that you do appreciate that they shared it with you. But guys are not going to appreciate it that much if every time you share it with them, you give them a lot of grief if they don't do what you want with it. At that point, they're not going to appreciate it at all. As a matter of fact, they're going to cringe every time you want to share information because they're going to know that there's going to be a little battle over whether or not they do it your way with the information you give them. This is not going to go well, okay? So let's reset the whole thing. Men, you need to value your wives and their opinions and insights, and even if you think they're completely wrong, they're there to share with you, and you want them to do that because they will often see things you didn't see and have a lot of value. Not always, because you're not always the brilliant, genius either. Okay? But you want to encourage them to share with you and make them feel like make them feel say, I value your opinions. However, ladies, you have to allow that they are then free to choose what to do with the information. Okay? And that's where the struggle always comes. I had a lady that, left the congregation many years ago, and when I called her to find out what was going on, she said, well, you hate women. I was like, what? I said, what do you mean? She said, you hate women. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, remember 3 months ago when I told you that you needed to set up church government in the congregation? And, well, you didn't do it. Okay, so first of all, you shared information with me. I told you that I would set up some sort of structure in the congregation at some point. It was a brand new congregation and whatever. And I said, it's going to take time for me to get to know the men and the members of the congregation to figure out who might be in a position. You can't just do that, all willy-nilly or anything. And so, you have to give it some time. See, but in her mind, I didn't value her as a woman because it came from a woman, because I didn't do what she said. And I said, no. I said, it's still been only 3 months since we started the congregation, and I'm not ready. Oh, you're just saying there's an excuse. You're never going to do this, and you hate women and everything else. This is the reaction. I've had this happen more than once. Ladies who've left and said, I hate women because I didn't do what they said. A lot of you out there, we have a lot of women here that I cover, a lot of women here that I counsel. They will tell you there's no way that I hate women. Okay? I cover, I provide, I'm compassionate, I know all those other things. But see, in their mind, because I didn't do, and see, look at the way she worded it. Well, I told you, and you didn't do it. I said, who are you to tell me? You're a member of the congregation for 5 minutes, and I'm the rabbi. What do you mean you told me? I told you. All right. And I told you that I actually thought it was a good idea for us to have elders and deacons and all that other stuff, like eventually the shamishes. But it was, we'd only started the congregation a month before we had the conversation. So it's a month-old conversation. Now, 3 months later, the congregation is still not even 6 months old. And here was the good part. And I said, and I'm glad I didn't do it because I was going to put you and your husband in positions because they had already stepped up and were helping a lot. And now I've got more information because I didn't hurry up to do it, and I'm not going to do that. Because waiting sometimes gets you enough information to make a better decision, not being in a hurry, you know? But ladies, be really careful of that whole thing. You have to be careful of the, not feeling valued. First, feel the value that he let you share the information. Pay attention to how he received it. Guys do a better job of receiving it, but then you got to recognize the blue side wanting him to do it your way because it's the right way and I told him what to do. That's not going to work. He's got to learn to make the decisions. That's his job. That's his role, to be the decision maker. But he shouldn't just make them without finding out your thoughts, because he should be making them so that you feel safe and provided and everything else. So your opinion should be highly valued. Okay? But this is a hard struggle. Look, I'm telling you, I have this with my own wife. Sometimes it's hard for the woman to feel valued if you don't do what they asked you to do the way they asked you to do it. And I have a hard time sometimes communicating this, as anybody would, to say, look, I want your opinions. I want to hear all your input, but you have to allow me to decide what to do with it. And if you're very blue, that's really hard, okay? I see a few blues doing this. That is the hard part, okay? But you need to still feel the value. And so I have to communicate that. I love you. I want to hear it. But you have to let me choose what to do with it, okay? So hopefully I didn't answer that question or that comment. Okay, live stream. Oh, wait, back there. Brianna. Okay, my daughter has a question or comment.
So you were talking about the Abraham and Sarah relationship. My question is, how do you know if he's a man who's worthy of me looking upon him to call him master? And also you said that you need to admire him, but how do you know if your admiration for him might just blind you from just him leading you off the path if he's not right in the structure?
Wow, good questions. All right, good questions.
Also, one more thing.
One more.
Is doubting his authority mean you're being a bad wife?
No, well, okay, doubting authority, it depends on what form that takes, okay? Because it's not that you're being a bad wife, it's that there's an issue that needs to be addressed either in you or him or both. If you're doubting his authority, it could be that you have a problem that is unresolved, that, is being triggered because of past things, even though he may be, trustworthy. Or it could be he's not being trustworthy, which is why you may doubt his authority. So they would need a lot more detail of a specific situation to answer that question. Hopefully you can understand and agree with that, all right? So the wife doubting the husband's authority does not in itself help me understand who needs to fix what. It could be one or the other or both. Okay, now to the two things that you asked prior to that. Okay, ladies, pay attention, especially the single ladies, because the married ladies, kind of stuck, okay? Oh, I'm sorry, did that come out loud? Okay, but this is about choosing your man. I will address the married ladies in a minute. I'll address them first. Ladies, believe in your man, he's already yours. You're married, he's yours. You've attached yourself to that train. Encourage it, fuel it, give it praise. I mean, this is your train, okay? And you got to be that helpmeet that is there not to constantly beat on and tell him what a loser he is and how disappointed you are and how frustrated you are and why don't you ever get this done and you never do that. That's not going to get you what you want. Never. That will never get you what you want. Okay, so to the singles though, okay, you want to find, this is to the ladies, and then the men, I'll address you right after that, but the ladies, you want to find a man that is going, because I'm going to give you a couple of points. Number one, he's going where you want to go. Okay, because you're attaching yourself to that train, so to speak. So you have to know where you want to go. So number one, you need a man that's going where you want to go. And so that's the idea of having admiration. I'm admiring him, not because, this is the second question that she asked, which is, well, how do you know you're admiring him and you're not going to just get let off? Well, if you're just all in awe of the man, he's just an awesome guy, you could get in all kinds of trouble. What you want to be admiring is the character of the man and where he's going. Okay, I admire him for going where he's going, and I want to go there too and go with him. So now you're not admiring him just only. Okay, if you're just all impressed with him, he could lead you anywhere. But if you're impressed with him because of who he is and where he's going and why he's going there and his dream and his goal, because your job as help me is to help him with his dream and goal. Okay? See, ladies, you can't use the phrase, my goal for you is, which somebody tried once recently, and I told them you can't do that. Okay? You need to know what his goal for you and him is. Where is he going? And do you want to be partnered with that? Do you want to be the teammate, the partner, the support of that? Okay? That's number one. Let me take the other side of that before I go to the second piece of this. Guys, if you have no idea where you're going, why would you want anybody to marry you? Where are you taking them? I mean, you basically should be a guy saying, hey, I'm going here. I'm going to the kingdom, and I'm going to I'm going to provide for my family this type of lifestyle on the way to the kingdom, and I want this kind of career, and I want to do this kind of good in the world, whatever it is, and I want you to be partnered with me in all of this. All right? Not like, hey, we've had a couple of good dates. You want to get married? I think you're cute. You think I'm cute? Good, let's get married. I mean, we use very weak criteria for this stuff, okay? And so it's not, which is why I appreciated, for example, my wife's list, which again, I valued her list, and her list had in it things like, I want a man who's going to lead. I want a man who understands the Bible better than I do. I'm tired of knowing it better than all the guys I know. This is what she said, and whatever else. There was a bunch of things in there. And they were about finding the right guy to go forward with, not, hey, he's cute and he makes a decent living, okay? There needs to be more, all right? So you want to find that guy that's going where you want to go, or you found out where he's going, you say, I want to go there too. And guys, you have to be going somewhere. You got to know where you're going and have a plan. And the ladies, find a guy that doesn't just know where he's going, but actually has a plan, okay? Well, I'm going, and he's got all these big dreams, and then he has no plan, okay? So he actually has to be going, like he's on the path headed somewhere. He's not just sitting at home sketching out a dream, okay? He's actually doing something. All right, so that's part one of my daughter's question. Part two is well, you want to find that guy, because the whole question really is about finding the right guy, right? You want to find that guy that's going to provide what you need to become all you can be. She's going to be flowering into something amazing. We already see it now at 16. Somebody that she's with has to be there to help and nurture and provide the space for that to grow into the fullness of what she's going to do with music and singing and praise and whatever else she's doing, okay? And whatever you're doing, all the single ladies, whatever it is that you're growing, that you need to be in a place where it's kind of like, choosing the right size pot to put a plant in, because it needs enough room to grow, and you have to have the right size depending on the type of plant it is, and it needs the right soil and everything. That's what you're looking for, ladies, to find a guy that's going to allow you to grow into what you need to become while also being there to support his dream. Sounds complicated, but that's what you need. Because it's not about you subjecting yourself completely so there's no you anymore. It's just you only about him. Okay? I provide my wife, and I never knew this when we met, that she was going to want to have all this creative writing stuff and making all this Parsha Pearl stuff and all the things for the children's program, but I give her all of the space to do all of that stuff that she loves to do, that her gifts and talents are there for. And if she asks, well, can I do this and add that? And I say, absolutely. Let's just I want this to be whatever it is you want it to be so you can grow into your fullness. While she's also supporting my direction, which is ministry and the things I'm doing. Okay? And so, to Brianna's question, to the guy side of it, guys, you need to be in a mindset of being able to communicate that you have a dream, a goal, and you're headed somewhere, and that you have a plan to do it. And B, that you're going to provide whoever you do end up marrying, that person that you want to spend your life with, that you're going to provide them with a place to become the fullest of whatever they're supposed to become. Okay? So that you both get to grow and flourish into the most fullness of whatever your potential was. Did that answer the question, Brianna? Okay, you're welcome. So again, then this is why you may find yourself with somebody. We've had a bunch of people come to the congregation over the years, kind of sort of seeing somebody to start with and then realizing it's not the right person. Better to realize it's not the right person before you get married, okay? But it's hard when you start to have emotions and you start liking them and they like you, because you can like the wrong person. There are very likable people, attractive to you. You find them attractive, you find them likable, you enjoy their company, but they're not going anywhere that you want to go. Maybe they're not going anywhere at all, okay? And they're not at all sure how to provide you with a space to become everything you can be, whatever that is, okay? I mean, that could be something as simple as a great housewife and mom. It could be as complicated as some career that you want to have out there, that you want to have a husband support, that you can fulfill what you have dreams and goals. Okay, we're not the chauvinistic society that all women have to just be barefoot and pregnant at home. Okay, each woman, some women want that, some women want other things. And you should have a husband that wants to help you, reach the fullness of whatever it is you. Okay? So that you can, not to want to sound like the military, be all you can be, But really, that's the point, right? So that's a really good question, Brianna. And for all you teenagers, okay, as you interact with each other, as you spend time with each other, yes, you will like each other. You'll find ones that you like. But is it the right person? You're going to have to ask some of these bigger questions. And in the meantime, you have to be also ready for your heart to get broken, because it will. Because you're going to really like some people, maybe even fall in love with some people that are not the right people. Okay? They're not going to go where you want to go, and they're not going to provide what you need. Okay, or from the guy's point of view, they're not, you don't want a wife that doesn't want to go where you want to go. That's going to be a drag always on what you're trying to do. And you don't want, a wife that's not going to support and believe in your dream and everything else, because she wants to go somewhere else in a different direction. So it works in both directions. But just understand, you can have strong emotions for the wrong person. By wrong meaning not the person you should spend as a life partner the rest of your life with. You will be miserably striving all the time, or striving with each other, because you're not partnering. So it's not just about physical and personality attraction. You are partnering, okay? Now, yes, there's a decision-making hierarchy and that kind of thing, but you're partners to work together to build a life, to then have maybe a family if you have children or whatever you're doing. Okay? And you need to be able to support each other. And that's something that would be better if you found out a lot of that before you get under the chuppah and get married. And it's tough, because you're going to find a lot of people out there that you spend some time with. They're attractive, their personality is great, and you're really enjoying each other's company, but they're not the right person. And that's hard to recognize when you get caught up in the emotions. Because the more the emotions are driving, the less the rational mind is able to get a hold of the wheel. Okay, the emotional mind is much louder than the rational mind. Okay, and so you can't get that little voice to speak up in the rational mind when the emotions are like, oh, he's so wonderful, oh, she's so wonderful. But is she the right person, or is he the right person? Totally different, okay? Totally different. You would like to have the emotions and the right person all combined together, which they can and they do, okay? But then you have to then make the second shift, which just because you have all of that in place doesn't mean that you're going to come together as man and woman and turn into husband and wife. Even though you might like where he's going and want to support where he's going, but he's a man and you're a woman and you're not understanding how to be a wife, or you're not understanding how to be a husband. This is why we should have all this training for teenagers for the most important thing they're going to do in their life. And there's none, okay? And so I'm hoping maybe we'll get more of that developed and we'll start doing more of that for you teenagers, because, as I've told you before, you guys are weird. And it's not your fault, because you laugh, but I joke, but I'm serious. They're very weird. because they're not kids, but they're not adults. That's weird. You've got a lot of the emotions and the thought processes of an adult and a lot of the thought processes and emotions of a kid. And it's a really weird place to be. And there's expectations that you're starting to develop for yourself. There's expectations other people are developing for you. And knowing how to handle them, what to do with them, and all those hormones floating around all over your body and getting you all messed up emotionally. You don't know why you're crying. You don't know why you're laughing. You don't know why whatever. I mean, there's just so much going on. Okay? You know, the drama level is ridiculous. Okay? Everything is drama. Okay, one thing we didn't have as bad as you guys, I don't think we had quite the level of drama in the 70s and 80s. I don't know why, we just didn't have that emotional, maybe we're just we're more strong in our emotions or something. I just don't remember being that much drama. But then again, I only had brothers. Now that I got a daughter and I hear some of the stuff on that side, I know where the drama's coming from. Okay? Because the boys don't do the drama, they just punch each other and it's over. I'm not making that up. I mean, I could have a friend, we could be together, we could have a problem, we can fix it, go home, and nobody will have known we actually had a problem, because now somebody might be a little bloodier than before and dirtier from rolling around, but we fixed it in 20 minutes, you know? And so for all intents and purposes, nobody knows that we had a problem in our friendship that went really bad, and then we fixed it after somebody beat the other one up, and we got it worked out. But yeah, you know, that's not the same as girl drama that lasts weeks, you know? Okay, and requires ice cream. You know. Okay, so. All right, because guys don't as much go to the ice cream for drama, they just go because it's dessert. You know? All right, so. And by the way, I love that one of my favorite places is a healthy salad bar that has free, unlimited soft serve ice cream. It's something contrast that is weird. Okay. Salad and ice cream. My favorite combination. All right. Who's next? Oh, good. Serenity.
Okay.
You guys are trying to make up for the fact that I busted you off for talking too much earlier.
So in Ephesians 6:1, it says for children to obey their parents, and then in Exodus 20 and Devarim 5, it says to respect them. Are they the same thing?
Okay, so, well, one says respect and one says honor in Exodus and in Deuteronomy. Okay, honor your parents, respect your parents, and obey. So if you are respectful and honoring of your parents, you would then naturally obey them. Okay? Now, again, we're talking about for children. Now we're talking about fathers and children. We're talking about young children. We're not talking about adult children at this point. Because a lot of times this becomes a real big problem that we get a lot of counseling with is, you know, some of you people will call us because, you know, you are now 42 and your 68-year-old, you know, mother is getting in your face and you don't know, and she's telling you that you're breaking the commandments because you're not honoring her because she's trying to get you to obey something. Well, wait a minute. You're in your 40s and you're an adult and you have to make your own choices. So this verse that you're quoting, Serenity, in chapter 6 is really talking about children with parents, okay? And so children with parents do need to honor and respect, which is Deuteronomy and Exodus, and also obey. Okay? Because you're learning to do the thing called obedience that we need to learn in order to be in covenant. All right? So when the parent says you need to be off your phone by whatever time, you need to be off your phone. That's obedience. Okay? So did that answer the question? Okay, good. Anybody else? Okay, Craig?
Rabbi, I could really feel what you were saying. For me, I guess it was...
Oh, you mean with all the daughters in your house?
Well, that, yeah. Just what you're saying about a plan, too. I had heard somebody say that having a plan puts you in the top 5 out of 100 successful people. That just having a plan will set you apart that much.
One of the studies that was done, that's quoted all the time, was done either by Princeton or Harvard, where they took a graduating class and saw how many of them actually had written goals. Then they went back and revisited them, I think about 10 years later, and I think it was only 1 or 2 or 3%, whatever it was, that had written goals, out-earned all the other people that didn't have written goals. Okay? So they wrote down their plan, where they wanted to go, what they wanted to aim at. Think of it like this: if I pull out my gun or I pull out a bow and arrow and I'm shooting, and I don't actually pick a target, then I'm not going to hit the target. You have to first select the target to aim at, and then you have to then do things like pull out the bow, put an arrow in it, and then shoot. There's a process, right? But I have to first select the target. I got to choose. If I just get in my car and drive, I'm going to end up somewhere, but maybe it's not where I want to go. Okay? I mean, if I'm trying to go to Florida and I get on I-75 North, I'm never going to get there. Okay? Because it's going the wrong way, right? And so you have to kind of think those things through in terms of having a goal, having a destiny. Where do you want to end up? And that, when we did, and we're going to do this again. So Craig, I don't know, did you do the men's class I did the first time?
Yes.
Okay, so in that men's class that I did the first time, and we're going to do it again. And when I started again, one of the projects that will be in there is the men creating a vision statement for their life, a vision plan for their career, their family, so that they have an idea of all the areas of their life where they'd like it to go. All right? And so with an overriding vision statement, and then having a vision for, what's the vision for your work career? What's the vision for your family life? What's the vision for your children? What's the vision for your spiritual life? What's the vision for your health? What's the vision for all of these things? And then that's where you can accomplish so much more, is you actually are aiming at something. And so then you know what to do, and you know how to do it, or if you don't know, you go and find out what to do and how to do it, but at least you know what you want to do. Okay? I mean, the first time I ever changed my own oil, I had to ask somebody to show me, how do you change an oil? Okay? And so they had to show me. But I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to change the oil. And so they showed me. And then I knew that I needed certain things so I could take off the filter and other things that you needed to do. Okay, so I got a little bit of the equipment. So you learn, but I had a goal. I wanted to change my own oil. And I had never done it. My father never showed me. So when I got my own car and I wanted to do it, I asked someone to show me. But I had to start off with wanting to do it. All right, so you're making $15 or $18 an hour, but you'd like to make 30. Okay, so now you have a goal. What are all the different ways that you can go from 18 to 30? There's lots of different ways to do that. And so you'd have to figure out what's the one for you. So it's a matter of picking that out. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yes, and you were teaching the to he who overcomes during when we were doing that men's online class. I've been personally going back to that teaching again, and a lot of this stuff is really parallel to the changes that I've made. It'd be my opinion that not that what you're teaching now isn't valuable, but that you could take a vacation for a couple of years and just have us watch all those teachings, developing the character Yeshua, the he who overcomes. It's so much of it that we're just not doing.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, those foundational teachings.
Yeah.
We could really sit and just
Yahweh.
watch over and over and over and over and over again. And you tie a lot of the information of the current teachings back into that. But a lot of the stuff and just the dopamine, I think, addictions that we have now is really something that I've noticed. I reach for my phone a lot, and it's not that I'm being busy or being productive, but that gives me a trigger in my mind that releases that feel-good feeling. And I think that if we're honest and maybe start looking into the like dopamine fasting, where we're actually fast for a day or two from anything that stimulates that dopamine release within our minds, that we can think a lot clearer. The more we get rid of the toxins and a lot of the foods that we eat, they have the excitotoxins, and you get real that hangry feel. Like if we can't control that,
It's almost 5:30. Don't say hangry.
yeah. Oh, that's it.
No, I appreciate that very much. And although it's interesting because when I just recently had a full workup done, and my dopamine, the lady said she'd never seen anything that high, and that was just my natural dopamine. She said that's an ADD problem. And so, now, which is why I generally have a fairly steady, disposition, although I do have somewhat of a challenge with passwords or something, but, but anyway, but I appreciate that, Craig. Yeah, and by the way, I know you're not my wife, but I will take that under advisement and maybe take a vacation. So I did receive that, and I valued your input, and and we will be playing videos of the old teachings every week for the next 3 years. Okay? And they're clapping. Okay. Well, but that means that I would have 3 years to develop all these old programs I promised you instead of teaching. So then we have that. All right. Anyway, who's next? Live stream.
From Madison, says, Rabbi, is having awareness the same thing as guarding?
No. Oh, you want me to explain that? They're interrelated. You're not going to guard very well if you're not aware, okay? But one is necessary to do the other well, okay? You're supposed to guard the command. All right, so let's say one of the commands you're supposed to guard is kashrut. So now you have to have an awareness of what you're eating, what the ingredients are and stuff that you buy, right? So you can't guard the command without a high level of awareness. So they're not the same thing, but you need to have one to really do the other well. Okay, next.
Okay, from Andy, says, when you don't have parents, example is an orphan, and you can't find another covenant elder, should one just fast, pray, and lean on Yahweh to be obedient, or who do we lean on as orphans?
Well, that's why we provide this live stream, so that you can be connected virtually, and then you can always contact us directly. That's why we do the Zone 2 and the Zone 3 meetings. So none of you out there should be an orphan unless it's by choice. This is available virtually, and by virtual I mean you can have everything that everybody here has except actual physical interaction with me. You can get counsel. You can do even face-to-face stuff using Zoom or FaceTime or WhatsApp. I mean, everything that anybody here could do, you could do, except to be in the same room with me. Okay, if you want to put it that way, okay? So without being in the same room physically, there's nothing you can't do as a congregant at large. All right, because we have all the technology to talk to you no matter where you are on the planet. Okay? Hopefully that answers the question. So, now the last thing you want to do though is let's go back to the dating thing. You don't want to just select a guy or a spouse, a woman, because of they're local, they're convenient, and you can do the same thing with congregations, right? Well, there's one local here and it's really not what I want, but it's the best that's available, and well, why not look for what you really need and what you really want? And if it's not local, then hey, virtual is better than a bad local, a good virtual, if you understand what I'm saying. And I'm not against you finding a local one, but you're an orphan because you didn't find one. Otherwise, you wouldn't have referred to yourself that way. So obviously there isn't one locally there that you find acceptable, viable, or maybe there's not one at all. Maybe there's not even a bad one. There's nothing. Well, then that's one of the main reasons why we're streaming this service, is to meet that need. Okay? We're not streaming this service so I can become popular on YouTube. Okay? We are streaming this service because there's a lot of you out there that don't have this. This is what you have. You can't just show up someplace like the people here are doing. And some of you live in countries where you can't just get up and move and be here either. It's complicated, and even leaving the country right now with COVID, some places are locked down, you can't even do that. And so that becomes complicated. And so my answer to you is take full advantage and make use of us the best you can. Okay, you can email and ask for, if you're in another country, so you can't just make phone calls easily here, then go ahead and contact us through email. And then after the email, give us a way to reach you through WhatsApp, or give us a way to contact you through one of the other free apps that you could have. We could do Zoom. Okay, I have a counseling Zoom room that I use. It's just for counseling. And we can do that. At some point here, when I actually learn my phone number, I will give you the phone number on the phone that I'm using for WhatsApp, and I can give that out. and then you guys can try to contact that way. And that way we have a way to do through WhatsApp, because that's a phone that it won't bother me if you call it all the time, 'cause I'm never going to answer it. It's only for outgoing calls by appointment. So you'd have to send me a message, and I'd have to arrange for a time. And that kind of keeps it from waking me up at 3 in the morning because time zone issues and stuff like that. Okay? All right, who's next? Go ahead on the next one.
Right. Yeah, she said that, she's here every week virtually, so.
Yeah, but if you need counsel or other things that you would think you'd only could get here locally, you can do that all, okay, without having to physically be here.
And Greg Wallen says, the 2-year binge challenge sounds good. Philip Mason says, 1 Peter 3:6, in the context of respect and trust, can we also say that this should be the attitude of males seeking to be men towards leadership if we want our wives to trust us?
Well, sure. Okay? When you're looking at this, you're getting a sense of, look, as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him master. Look, it all works up the the vertical structure. Each one should be able to look at the one above and look at them with respect as master. Okay? That's the way the vertical structure is. But each person should be working and striving to be respectful or be worthy of respect as master, and understand the responsibility that you have for the person looking at you as a master, because they're trusting and relying on you to provide, to be right, to whatever it is that you need in that role. Okay?
Okay, from Beyond Ready, says, you have a question, is there any advice on how to train up children as a mother when the father doesn't want you teaching them Torah? Should I just stick to what we agree on biblically?
Okay, so we're dealing with one of the most challenging situations, which is an unequally yoked situation. And so the one wants to teach the children Torah, the other one doesn't want it. Okay? So what you have is a marriage problem. Two can't walk together unless they agree on how they're walking. And so you're going to have to come to an agreement. Now, he is the head, he is your husband, he is the father of that child. That doesn't mean that you don't get to have an opinion, and that if the opinion is something that's strong enough and isn't going to work, that you may have a marriage problem. Okay? But the sad truth and reality is that as long as he's the head and he's the father and he's the husband, the best you could hope for is that he's going to allow you to teach it to them, but he's going to teach them his stuff too. Okay? That's kind of the best that you're going to get out of that. And if he wants to bring the Christmas tree in, if he wants to bring the Easter eggs in, if he wants to do all that stuff, there's nothing you can really do about that except push it to the point of saying, if you're going to keep doing that, I can't be here. And that's only if that really is your, you can't tolerate that level. He doing all that is not an excuse to divorce. In other words, it's not like a guaranteed reason you must divorce because your husband's doing out of covenant stuff. It's about your relationship with him. Some relationships, unequally yoked, can last for many, 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 many years. It's not ideal, but they find a peace and a kind of a rhythm that works. There's a certain amount of mutual respect and it works. Other ones don't, and if it doesn't, then you may have to really consider the alternatives. And that's just because living in a place that has no peace is just eventually not good for anybody, okay? All right, so that's very challenging. I have a lot of empathy and a lot of sympathy for the unequally yoked, okay? I was very blessed that all the way on my journey, my wife and I have been on the same page. Okay, we were on the same page when we met. We were on the same page when we took 7 years off. We were on the same page when we came back, okay? There was only a brief number of weeks where one of us was where the other one wasn't until they got on the same page. So that was a huge blessing. So I can only understand through hearing your experience just how hard it is, since I've never really had that experience, the unequally yoked thing. But I've counseled so many people, and I do have a lot of empathy and sympathy for how hard that could be. My only thing I could recommend for you to do is to call and talk to me about your specific unique situation, and maybe there's guidance I could give you in that unique situation. But I can tell you, I have a lot of couples that I counsel that are unequally yoked, and not a two of them are exactly the same. Okay? So I can't give you a one-size-fits-all advice. All right? There's just no way to do that. They're all unique. They all have certain levels where there's advantages or disadvantages or levels of tolerance or whatever. They're very unique. Okay? All right, next.
Philip Mason says Ephesians 6, 5 through 7. Could you expound on this more in terms of bosses, supervisors, military leaders, etc.?
Yeah, look, the main point is attitude. When you're going to serve like you're serving Messiah. Do it the best you can with the right attitude. Anything you do, even if it's not what you wanted to do with the right attitude. Okay, look, last night, I get invited occasionally over people's houses, for Erev Shabbat, and I almost never want to go. And it's nothing personal to them. It's Friday night. I've had a long week. I'm getting ready for Shabbat. In this case, we also had a Zone 3 meeting to do. And I just don't want to get up out of my house and go be blue, okay? Which I don't have any anyway, so it's more effort. But I tend to do the right thing because it's the right thing. So last night I went anyway, okay? But when I chose to go and have a good attitude about it. I didn't choose to go and be like, I didn't want to come anyway, and I have other things to do. I went and I had a great time. So those of you that were with me, that we had a great time, okay? But the thing is, it's just like when you're dealing with this verse in Ephesians. If you may be dealing with a supervisor or some other person in the military, whatever it is, that is having you do certain things, you have to do the right thing. You have to follow your orders and do the instructions. But the main thing is you have to do it with the attitude that you're doing it like you're doing it for Messiah, okay? And, all of us have had customer service, whether it's in a restaurant or some other place, where the person clearly wasn't liking what they were doing. All right? I mean, the worst class I ever took in school, I was in high school, I had a teacher that basically looked at us like, I've been teaching this stupid class for 40 years. I hate it. I wish I could be retired, and you're going to hate it too because I hate it. And that's basically what we got out of him for the whole year. Now, he never said that, but it was coming out of every pore of his body. So he might as well have said it. And so that's the whole thing, is that you should be serving with joy. Okay? If you come here and you volunteer, there should never be a whine or a gripe coming out of your mouth. You came here to volunteer like you're doing it for Messiah. Okay? And do it the best you can, and do it with a smile on your face. Whatever it is, all right? And don't have the attitude. So it's really, for Philip's question, it's really about demonstrating our attitude in service. Okay? Next.
Justin and Denise Rodriguez says, question, Rabbi, how do we give the emotional safety?
Okay, so because I know you guys and I know what you're going through, so I want to figure out the right way to answer this so it's more in general. Look, I think we have to make an adjustment in our mindset. I can't give you emotional safety and security. I can provide you with safety and security. You will or will not necessarily see it that way because you may be broken and handicapped in that area and just not able to see it, even if it's there. It may be a challenge that has to be worked through counseling. But thinking about whatever it is you're going through as something someone else has to provide is already a wrong approach. They're not going to provide you a feeling. They're going to provide you with safety and security. You'll either see that it is or isn't. If it is and you can't see it, there may be a need for counsel and help. Okay? I can't make you feel happy. I can't make you, if you're depressed, I can't snap you out of depressed. I can't make you feel secure if you're insecure. I can't make you feel safe if you're afraid. I can't make you feel anything. Okay? you have to choose to push the emotions out of the way, objectively look at your situation, and decide if you're safe or not. Because just because you don't feel safe doesn't mean you're not safe. It's a feeling you have. And you may have such a habitual way of feeling that way that you are not able to feel safe even when you're safe. Okay? So you need to figure that part out. Because until you can get the emotional voice quieted down so you can objectively, rationally analyze the situation and decide, is it really safe or not? You're not going to be in the reality. Okay? And so, if in this case, if Denise is asking about Justin, if she doesn't feel safe, he may be doing, he may not, I don't know, right? But he may be doing a whole bunch of stuff to make her feel safe, and at this point, maybe she can't feel it or receive it. So he can't give her that. What he can do is things that should make her feel safe, and if you're a spouse, I was using Justin and Denise here, but if you're a spouse and you don't feel safe, if you can communicate exactly what it is that's making you feel unsafe, and they can fix that, and you still don't feel, still don't feel safe, then you have a different problem. Okay? Spouse. I'm just kind of we'll play out a little script here. Spouse says, I don't feel safe. Husband says, so wife says, I don't feel safe. Husband says, why? What's making you not feel safe? Wife says, we're always short of money at the end of the month. I always feel like we're not going to get our bills paid and we're going to get evicted and all these things. Husband, okay, I'm going to go fix this. Down the road a few months, husband's gotten another job, a different raise, and all these other things. Spouse, I feel unsafe. Husband, why? I'm always afraid about the bills. Husband, but I got a job, we now make a lot more money, there is more money. But that wife is so used to feeling unsafe, so we have to kind of figure that all through. If you can identify, and you might not be able to, you might need counsel, but if you can identify what's making you feel insecure, unsafe, afraid, whatever it is, and can communicate that to the one who can fix it, they can't fix it by giving you the feeling. What they could do is do the thing that you think was creating the feeling. They could fix that. If it was finances, if it was, hey, I don't feel safe because I feel like the car is going to break down every time I drive it. So he goes and gets it fixed or buys a new car, a different car, all right? Now that's fixed. If that doesn't fix your emotional problem, there's something else going on. Okay? But it helps if you can at least make the effort to communicate, which means you have to look inside yourself and say, why do I feel unsafe? And is he or she really doing the things that you think they're doing? Because at some point, you could be jumping at shadows. Or you could be reacting to something they did in the past that they're not doing now, but it looks like they might be, or you're thinking they might be because you've become paranoid about it. And I'm not saying anybody like Denise and them is being paranoid. I'm saying these are all possible reactions that people could have. Okay? All right, so just realize that the other person may genuinely be creating your problem. Or the other person may not be genuinely creating it, but did in the past, and you're still living there. And no matter what they do now, you're still there. And that's not necessarily their fault if you're going to see that when they're not there anymore. Because they may have legitimately done something to give you that reason to feel that way, and they've owned it, repented, and all that other stuff, which is why you're still with them. But if you're going to constantly see every interaction, okay? If I had cheated on my wife, make an example, right? And she decided to keep me, and I apologized and repented, and we got through it, and it was like a whole bunch of years ago. It may still be, anytime she sees me talking to a woman, that it triggers that. Even though there may be completely legitimate reasons for me to be doing that, okay? And I'm not saying that whole friends thing, like not that I'm friends with somebody, but maybe we're in a congregation, we're having a conversation, maybe I'm talking to a husband and a wife, and the husband walks away for a second, and whatever we were all talking about is still going on, and all she sees is me just standing there talking to this woman, okay? And that could trigger something even though there isn't anything. And so that time when that happens, we're now not able to process reality because we're now triggered by an emotional response. It's a PTSD response. And so that's really hard to unravel, but he can't do that. If that's me with her, I can't fix that. Because there will be a time here or there where I may be standing talking to a woman. Maybe she's the lady at the store on the other side of the counter and it's still a woman. And if she's pretty and I'm talking to her, even though I'm buying something, it could trigger something. Well, you looked at her a certain way. Oh, but you did this. I mean, all of the fears could just swell up. And so at some point, you may have to realize it's not the other person. Maybe it was then, and maybe they fixed it now, but maybe now it's you. Maybe it's a combination. Maybe they really are still a little flirtier than they should be. Like anything over 0. Okay? I had to learn that really, quickly. Look, before I got married, I was kind of flirty. Innocent flirty, but flirty. I was just friendly and flirty. I was single a long time. And once I got married, I still kind of did it a little bit. My wife told me in no uncertain terms that was not acceptable. And I didn't even realize I was doing it because it was just what I did. You just kind of was sort of friendly flirty, And I never was doing it to attract somebody, to date them. It's just, I did that with the waitresses in the restaurant. I did it with anybody. I was just very kind of friendly flirty. Now, I'm not justifying anything. That was what I had become before I met her. Now, got married, I was communicated to me, and then over a reasonably short period of time, I fixed that problem, okay? Now, over time, because I couldn't fix it immediately, because it was something I'd been doing for a long time, okay? And so now, if I kept doing it in the marriage for a long time, which I didn't, she could have gotten to the point that when I finally did stop, and I might have thought I stopped and got it stopped, she may still see it every time I talk to somebody because it became a triggered thing. Okay? All right? But thankfully in our marriage, she communicated it, I responded quickly, and then it ended. We didn't have that problem. And so it was simple enough, okay? So, but for others, it could have been an ongoing thing for a long enough period of time where you now have a triggered response. And now all you need to do is see the person, and it takes you right back to that place, okay? My daughter falls, my wife is right back to the place where she fell and broke her arm. And literally all of that strength of emotion, of freak out for breaking an arm is there, even though it may not have been that big a deal this time, because it can be a triggered response, okay? Happened at a feast one time. My daughter was out, roller skating where I was, she fell, she banged her arm, she bruised it up a little bit, no big deal, but it was after she had broken it, and man, my wife got really nervous about that. And I don't blame her for that because it's a triggerable response, because it was a horrible trauma, okay? And so you may be in a marriage where you had some horrible traumas that are now triggerable responses, but even though the thing that happened, the new thing that happened, really didn't warrant that response. But you can't control that without getting help in unraveling it and, diffusing the tripwire, okay? And that, when they do, the bomb squad comes in, you ever notice that it's only certain people with special training that diffuse the bomb? You've got a bunch of those tripwires in you. You need somebody with special training to diffuse them. You may need to go get counseling, and not just from me, but maybe a professional who's a professional at the specific type of, minefield that you put in your life or that was put in your life. It could have been abuse. Could have been sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. It could have been whatever. It could have been in a marriage relationship where you got cheated on and you had another one and you got cheated on again. You may have that kind of thing going on. You've got these tripwires and these bombs that could just go off. Well, you need to get someone who's trained specially how to help you diffuse them. And you're just sitting back thinking that somehow you just pray about it, it'll go away. Maybe that does occasionally, but not often. All right? It's going to cost you some money. You're going to have to go study this out, find somebody to walk you through it, get a professional, unless you just like being triggered all the time and having your relationships always be in a challenge because you get triggered. And you might say, well, if he would just stop or she would just stop doing that, it wouldn't trigger me. But they're not always doing something. You're triggered just because it looked like they were doing something. Okay? Almost none of the people that I work with are guilty of all the things they're accused of. They're guilty of some of them, but sometimes the other person is just, they're being triggered by what looked like, could have been, maybe we're going in that direction, and it triggered the deal. Okay? and yet you're having the full-on emotional response as if it actually happened. And so I see women react, or men react, as if their wife or husband just cheated on them when they didn't. But because he looked at somebody, or she looked at somebody, or said something and happened to smile when they said, whatever it was, triggered the way that you remember him looking or her looking at somebody back when they were cheating, and the whole thing comes flooding back. Which is why you should behave in the first place. They don't create all these trauma triggers, okay? Keep your nose clean and you avoid most of this. Only problem is some of you married people that had all of this when you met them, because a lot of the stuff happened before they met you. And they bring it all with them. And so you inherit it all, okay? And then the next thing you know, you did something. Okay, I did this the other day. The other day I was interacting with somebody, and there was a problem with a spillage or some other thing, and I went over to, gently talk to them and correct them about it, and it was very gentle, but because of what I did was so similar to an experience that this person had with their father, it triggered the same reaction that this person had with their father, who their father happened to be much more of a problem than I am, as far as that goes. But because the way that my voice sounded or the words I used or whatever triggered something. See, these are all tripwires you have there that other people have no idea they're going to trip over. Okay? And out of respect for everybody else in your life, you should get them fixed. Unless you like the constant blowing up and explosions around you and by you in your life. And everybody you're dealing with has the same problem, so they're the ones who are blowing up half the time because you tripped on their wires. And we wonder how we're going to have these relationship things ever work. It's really tough when we have constant, bomb wires everywhere. Okay? And they're all invisible. It's kind of like, in those Mission Impossible things, you get that one room and there's a hallway and you got to spray something to notice there's all these red beams everywhere. There's laser beams that if you touch one of them, it sets the alarms off. But you don't see them unless you throw dust up in the air or something, so you can see them. That's what people are like. Problem is, there's nothing you can do to see them until you trigger it. There's no dust you can spray and say, oh, look at all these tripwires. This person's got a problem with their father, a problem with authority, they've been cheated on 4 times, they were sexually abused, you don't get that until you trigger one. Then you know. And you still may not know what exactly it is, except that whatever you did triggered something. And we wonder why relationships are tough. There's good reason. Because we come with all this mess. It makes it really tough. Especially if you got a bunch of people that are single older and then they want to get married older. Look, even my wife and I, we got married older. So that meant that we had more life to have more issues that could be triggerable. If you've been married more than once, you definitely have a lot more life that could be triggerable. Because anytime you're in an experience that you've had more than once, those previous experiences, if they were bad, can trigger. So if you had a bad marriage, anything in your new marriage can trigger the experience from the old one. You had more than one of those, you have even more triggers. Okay? And so just recognize that. And then here we are trying to fall in love with each other and be echad. It's a work. It's a work. All right, it's 5:30. What else you got real quick? Anything? Now that I sort of gave sermon number 4?
All right, last one. Daniel Woods, how do you honor parents who are just plain evil?
Exorcism. Just watch out for the green soup. Look, when you're an adult, okay? Because again, this is a person who's asking not as a kid. This is a person who's an adult. Treat your parents with honor and respect for their position, which means that don't curse them out and don't treat them abusively, but doesn't mean you have to do everything they say, okay? They're going to say that honoring is obedience, which is kind of what it said in 1 Peter, which is why Serenity brought up the question, okay? But that's not what we're talking about all the time. Okay, we're talking about the basic commandment has to do with showing honor and respect. This seems to be cutting in and out. I might need to back off. I've been told that a lot in my life. hey, you might need to just back off. All material must be used. Okay. And so just remember that if you're parents and you're an adult, you know, the way you talk to them has to be respectful. So they're being evil, and you can say respectfully, if you're going to continue behaving like this, I can't stay in this conversation. I'm going to have to hang up. You know, so you do that in a way that you don't just go, well, F you, and then hang up the phone. I'm serious. I'm just trying to make sure that you understand. You can't just curse them out and hang up the phone on them. It's your parents. But you can say, look, I don't appreciate being talked to that way if that's what they're doing or whatever, because they're disrespecting you, and say, look, if that's the way you're going to talk to me, I'm not going to talk to you. Okay? And then you can say, I'm going to hang up now, and if you're ready to have a conversation with me that's more respectful, you're welcome to call me back. And if you start doing this again, I'm just going to hang up on you. And if you come to my house and act that way, I'm going to tell you you're not welcome to come to my house. That's not disrespectful. It's how you say it that could be disrespectful. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay? So if your parents are being evil, whatever that is, I mean, there's certainly all kinds of levels of serious behavior that could be really considered evil, then you need to create safe boundaries, but do it in a respectful way. Okay? Don't talk to them in a way that you should not talk to your mother or your father. I don't care what they've done to you. They're still your mother and your father. And so you can, in a polite, straightforward, firm enough voice, say, hey, okay? This is not acceptable in terms of you interacting with me. This evil, whatever they're doing. And if you're going to do that in my conversation, you're going to do that with the children, you're going to do that at my house, whatever it is they're doing, you let them know. If that's what you're going to do, then I'm not going to give you access to do it. You're not welcome here, and we're not going to have phone calls. Okay? So hopefully that answered that question. All right? All right, so that's going to wrap this up. Did we go ahead and go get the children?